Hello. Sorry to bother you. Can I ask you a slightly odd question?
Yeah, sure.
I'm making a podcast called Strangers on a Bench, where essentially I talk to people I don't know on benches for 10 or 15 minutes. Are you up for that? Do you want to give it a go? So traditionally, I get people to stay anonymous, so I don't say their name. And if I need to remind myself of your name, I'm touching your name.
You are.
It's a funny thought, isn't it?
Yes.
There you are.
Are we recording?
Yeah, we're recording now.
Okay.
We're on.
This is the reason why I'm here.
Right. Okay. So, on one side of the bench, your side you're sitting on, it says Gina.
Mm-hmm.
And then on this side of the bench that I'm sitting on, it says and Sue.
Yep.
So, I mean, do you want to tell me about all this? Who's Gina?
She was my wife. She died last year, as you can see.
She did.
And she wanted a bench here. We chose this spot, well, I chose this spot because in the last couple of years of her life, she was quite disabled. Well, she'd been living with stage 4 cancer really well for about 5 years. Then she had a stroke. She was quite disabled in a wheelchair.
After the stroke.
Yeah. And we used to come here and get a coffee or an ice cream from the cafe there. And we'd come and sit along here and watch the kids playing football or the dog walkers or whatever was going on. So it seemed like a perfect place to have a bench. So actually, some of her ashes are buried around the back here. I have permission, and so she's actually bits of her are here too.
Oh, wonderful.
And I come and sit here, not every day, but quite often, and just talk to her. Sometimes I get my phone up so people don't think I'm mad. So I'm talking to somebody on my phone, and I came now because tomorrow I'm flying to America to see my sister and niece who live in Brooklyn. And I just wanted to let Gina know that I wasn't going to be around for a bit. No, it's magical thinking. I know it's magical thinking, but I do feel that presence here. And the other day, there was a shooting in the park, and it was actually just up the path there. And I was so worried that she'd be scared.
Magical thinking is the best kind of thinking, I think.
Yeah, life would be very dull without it.
It would.
For sure.
So it's been a year. What has
Yeah.
this year been to you?
Well, grief is a really interesting process. I thought I knew about grief because I've worked a lot with people who were bereaved.
Yeah.
I've read quite a lot about it. My own parents died, but really this I did not know until Gina left. And it's such a journey, It was very intense. There were times when I felt a bit mad, but in a good way. Very like passionately intense to begin with.
Yeah.
It really was.
Can you just describe that a bit?
Well, paradoxically, I felt very alive.
Yeah.
And that might have been because I was a carer for 2 years. I mean, I was a carer for a lot longer than that because she needed quite a lot of like, emotional and psychological support. And I retired early to look after her. But in the last couple of years of her life, I was a full-time carer.
Yeah.
So that part of it was a sense of freedom. You know, I could do things that I hadn't been able to do for a long time, like travel, you know, go to the cinema in the middle of the afternoon, go out to dinner with friends at a whim.
Yeah.
So there was that kind of freedom. But alongside that, a sense of sometimes like, well, who am I now?
Yeah.
You know, because so much of my identity was caught up in being a carer and looking after her.
Prior to being in the caring role.
I was a carer, I was a psychotherapist, I was a
Yeah,
craniosacral
you're already doing
therapist,
that.
so it's sort of,
Yeah.
my whole life.
And was your identity also wrapped around her just because she was your wife?
Yes, absolutely. And like anybody who's been through this journey will say the same thing. It's like you always carry them inside you, and you carry the grief inside you.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's overwhelming, you know, like talking to you now, stranger. But in the early days, I'd be walking down the street with tears streaming down my face. But the internal grief changes. But I remember an image I had in the early days was like I had this big balloon full of water, full of tears inside. Now it's more like, what's it like now? I suppose it's like, it is a bit like living with a hidden disability.
Yeah.
Like on the outside, I look fine.
Yeah.
Put me in a social situation, I'm fine, I can manage, I can make small talk, all those things.
Yeah.
And on one level it's true, I am enjoying myself and I am that person. But I'm also a person who needs a lot of solitude, and I need to be able to talk to her, and I need to be able to process what I'm feeling.
Yeah.
Because if I don't, it sort of catches up with me.
Of course. What are you saying to her when you're talking to her?
Sometimes it might just be, this is what's been happening. What do you think?
What do you hear back?
Good question. Even though I talk to her as a person and I look at the photos on the phone and I'm talking to who she was,
Yeah.
I think my sense is now that her essence is sort of in the ether. So if I hear anything back, it's more a sense of reassurance, like a gentle sense of reassurance, like it's okay.
What do you think she would think of your... Oh, some good squirrel chasing there. Squirrel hide and seek. Which side of the tree are you?
They're trying to figure it out.
Yeah, which you complete.
Where's it gone? That one's going, where's it gone?
Is that one going to be about to be surprised?
Yeah.
We've all got our own games. So you have to... You're forging now an entirely new identity, in a way. It's a completely new start for you, as if from...
It is, and
how long?
It is and it isn't,
Yeah,
actually.
of
yeah.
course, it gives you, you're established as a... I know,
Yeah.
but as in like kind of, is this like an opportunity? Is this a burden? What does this mean?
Tell you something I noticed. Actually, I'm going to backtrack a minute. The first year,
Yes.
I marked all the anniversaries because I know about anniversaries. If you don't pay attention to them, they'll come around and smack you in the face. I really didn't want to do a family Christmas because it would have been too painful. Yeah. And what I decided to do was walk around London. I walk quite a lot. So on Christmas Day, I packed my little rucksack. I had a smoked salmon bagel, I had a flask of coffee, I had mince pies. And I walked down to the city and all around St Paul's and across the river. And it was really nice. It was such a great thing to do.
I love that. May I briefly interrupt you by saying my favourite Christmas day, my first one away from my mum. She was away somewhere, and this family in East London, who I knew, kind of welcomed me in. But I walked all the way across London to that. And I remember it's my most favourite walks. It's so rare to you get to this walk through London in this kind of completely other state, in the middle of the day, just to kind of, and you feel so kind of, I don't know, it's just an amazing feeling. So
Yes.
completely simple.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. It's sort of special. Well, it is a special day.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
What a clever idea. And so you had your backpack full of mince pies. How many mince pies to see you through?
I think only 2. And then her birthday, I'm vegetarian, but she wasn't. And on her birthday, I actually cooked a roast chicken dinner. Not a steak, roast chicken dinner.
Oh,
And set the table and ate it.
Did you enjoy the chicken?
I like the crispy skin. I don't much like the meat.
Oh, what a sweet marketing.
What other anniversaries were there?
Your wedding anniversary, is that one?
Yeah, I'm just trying to think, what did I do then?
What was your wedding like?
Oh God, it was a two-day affair. We had a civil partnership, which was just for family. And then the next day we had one of the rooms at Kenwood, and we had a big party there. And we'd asked people to give readings or play music, and it was great. It was really great. It was a lovely weekend.
How long have you been together before?
33 years.
33.
Yeah. And last weekend was the anniversary of her funeral, which again was a great occasion. It was over at the church over there, the other side of the park. And everybody just let me organise it. And we had like a hearse with her EU berry on the top.
A what?
EU berry, blueberry with the yellow
so
stars. A Brexit berry.
Yes, that's what it's called.
Anti-Brexit berry.
Yeah.
And people said, you can't do the eulogy, you'll be too emotional, but I did the eulogy.
Well done. How did you get through it?
I cried a little bit. I had to do it because I knew nobody else would be able to do it.
Yeah. What part of the eulogy was most important to you to say?
I think what I wanted to do was, because there were people there from all different parts of her life, and I knew that not everybody knew everything about her. And I think a lot of people didn't know how hard she found life. I did it by talking to her. I addressed her.
Oh, that's sweet. Did she talk at all about what she wanted from any of that herself before she died?
No, we talked quite a lot about dying itself and what happens. And we had a narrative.
What was that narrative?
I mean, what happened in the end was, well, first of all, she had a premonition. I didn't realise this. I came in one day and she looked really scared. And eventually she said, I heard on the radio that I'm dying. And I said, oh, I don't think you are, but I will let you know if it looks like you are. And 3 days after that, she had what turned out to be a massive bleed on the brain. Ambulances came round again, got very used to ambulances coming round. Took her to the hospital and she died 2 days later. And I was with her the whole time. So I was telling her the story, so sort of lying on the bed next to her, that when she died, she wasn't to worry. She'd just look for the light, go to the light, and that all these people would be there to welcome her, people that she'd known who'd passed over, they'd be there saying, "Where have you been? We've been waiting for you." And there'd be fish and chips, and there'd be roast dinners, and there'd be ice cream, and Man U would be winning all the football.
Every single match.
Yes, yeah. And if she got scared on the way, just to say a few Our Fathers. And
Say a few words to the big guy.
so that was our narrative.
Yeah. Will you have a similar narrative?
Yeah,
Do you
yeah.
use the same one?
Yeah, yeah.
Who's going to say it to you, though?
Yeah.
We've got to find that person. Or maybe you know already. So, you're telling her this story as she's dying.
Yeah.
Did anything particularly strike you in those 2 days that stayed with you?
God, I was cold. I was so cold. The first night in the hospital, I was freezing.
Yeah.
And I think I was in shock as well.
Yeah.
I never thought to stick my head out of this little door. We were in a private room and ask the nurses for some blankets. What else do I remember? I think the love that, everybody who came because they loved her. And also privilege doesn't feel like the right word, but it's a very special thing to be able to do. To lie there next to her and see her out.
Have there been any kind of renewed, is there a sense of like a kind of lurking new purpose there that you're keen to explore?
I think this is a bit of a cliche. I think it's more about being than doing now. Just being still. I've had a meditation practice for years, but I'm still not very good at being really still for a long time.
So, I mean, what will your days look like then? We totally skipped the opening question of this podcast because this is a very rare event of sitting on on someone's actual bench. I totally missed it. But it's just funny how these things come around. Well, I always ask people's favourite day of the week as a starting question because it's kind of Wednesday or something. Like, so what is a good day for you now?
If I've had a week where I've been very busy, seen a lot of people, been out a lot, had a good time, then a good day would be a day that has absolutely no commitments in it. When I can just potter around and talk to the cats or sit in the garden or read a book and not have to talk to anybody. On the other hand, if I've had a week where I haven't done very much or I felt a bit low, then a good day would be meeting up with somebody that I really like, having a really nice meal out somewhere, maybe a restaurant I haven't tried. So it depends.
I just realised you didn't answer the difficult question about who's going to whisper in your ear.
I don't know. Actually, I think I'd quite like to die alone.
Really?
Yeah. I'd like to be able to say goodbye, but I don't think I actually want anybody there, like family or anything, when I go. Maybe a death doula, and just make a fuss, just lets me get on with it.
Is that based on what you've seen with Gina, or do you think that's just how you would have been anyway?
I think that's what I'd want. I mean, I'm saying that now, knowing that when the time comes, whenever it is, it might be completely different.
You're like, get them all in.
Yeah.
The whole bunch, many as possible.
No, I don't think so. I
It could all
don't think I want people to watch me die.
Sure.
That is it. I don't think I want people to watch.
Yeah. That does make sense. So no kind of, you haven't had any particular kind of mad ideas about how you might spend your time. You just want to have a calm time.
Well, the thing is, if I was 30, it'd be very different.
Yeah.
But the rest of my life is not that long.
Well, it could be.
I wouldn't want it to be.
How long do you want it? How long do you want it to be?
Well, I'm going to be 80 in 3-4 years' time.
Okay, fine,
Yeah.
but
I certainly don't want to live to 90.
you do a lot of walking around,
Yeah.
so we maybe start doing less walking. Okay, look, you can take up skateboarding like this.
No, my balance isn't good
Your
enough.
balance.
I
Oh, this guy.
couldn't have done that when I was 20.
No, I couldn't either.
I wouldn't mind you. It'd be quite nice. 'Cause it's a bit like flying, isn't it?
Yeah, there must be a reason they all do it. There you go, skateboarding, next thing. But yeah, so you might have, you could easily have 10 years. 10 years is a long time.
No, it's not.
It's quite long. I'm going to disagree with you. I think it's quite long.
I
You don't think it's
I
not?
think it depends whereabouts in life you
Sure.
are. I have 2 cats that I have to see out.
Yeah, that's okay. That's a task. What are they called?
Tabitha and Marmaduke.
And you talk to them.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good morning, cats. Breakfast.
That's all they get though. Are they good company?
Yeah, they are, because they're very elderly. So that what they want is for me to sit down and be still, so that they can sit on me.
Well, both of them at the same time.
Yeah.
Oh, well. Do you have a favourite?
Yeah, Marmaduke.
Because?
Oh, because round about the time the last pair of cats had died and we were looking for new ones, and I had a dream about a ginger cat who was going to be a helper. Right, so when we went looking, one of the stipulations with the rescue agency was one of them had to be a ginger kitten. So I got my ginger kitten.
Fantastic. So you're also having everyone's having premonitions. Or dreams. Is it premonition or dream? What is it?
It's a dream. It was
It's a dream. Can I ask you how you came to be in love with Gina at the start?
I was introduced to her by a friend of mine that was on the same training as me, and this friend was staying at Gina's flat. So we were all training as psychotherapists at various different institutes.
And do you remember your kind of first moment of connection?
Well, when you say that, what comes is when we left, and I think there were a couple of other people, I remember Gina leaning over the banister and saying, "Are you going to leave me all on my own?"
But that was the first meeting?
Yeah. She'd just been to her adopted mother's funeral in Manchester. And she'd gone out and bought the Bach Passion and the Mozart Passion records. So it was the sort of thing she did.
How swiftly after that did things kind of materialise? Was it a quickie or slow burner?
It was fairly quick. She asked me out on a date. We went to Pizza Hut. And at that time I was unemployed. I had no money. And she ordered everything. And then said, "We'll split the bill." And didn't quite realise.
And then you were off, that was it?
Yeah. It was never an easy relationship. In a way, it got a lot easier when... It was a lot easier to love her when she got sick, which I know sounds like a strange thing to say.
It was never an easy relationship, but a long time. There must have been
I
so
think
much
there was
good-
a lot of devotion
Yeah.
between us.
To last that amount of
despite,
time.
Yeah.
What wasn't easy about her and what was tricky?
Because she was so anxious, and I don't think I fully realised how anxious she was until quite towards the end of her life. She had a huge need to know and could be very critical of people who didn't sort of fit into her way of thinking. So, for example, if we were going to go anywhere, visit people, she needed to know when we were going to leave. She needed to know if we were going to a restaurant, what was on the menu, so I had to download menus for her to look at so that she could check whether there was something she'd be able to eat. She would take on people in argument, sort of fearlessly about politics. She was a Labour supporter through and through and would argue with anybody about it. In fact, all our nephews and nieces have memories of sort of being bludgeoned by Gina politically and feeling very guilty if they forgot to vote, that kind of thing.
So there was a kind of natural volatility to her, just
Yeah.
And at least now, to me, you don't seem like that. So
No, am much more laid back than she ever was. Yeah.
And how did that dynamic kind of work? I suppose you were calming her down.
I tried.
Yeah. I quite like the idea of mundane memories. I think often, we go for big dramatic moments, but if I asked you to think about a small event with her, what does your mind go to?
I'll tell you the first thing that came
Yeah,
into my
do.
mind, okay? She already had her cancer diagnosis, but before she had her stroke. She'd gone to the kitchen, which was down a flight of stairs,
Yeah.
to make tea, and she was coming up with a tray, and there would have been mugs of tea, maybe a plate of biscuit on it, right? And she tripped on the stairs, and it all went on the floor, and she was so upset. And I really felt for her because she was trying to do something special.
Oh. That's a sad one. We've got to think of a happier one now.
Okay, all right, again.
A happy small one.
This is what comes to mind.
Yeah.
And this was decades before.
Yeah.
I'd been away somewhere or I'd been out for the day, and it was actually just over there, and she was coming across the park, and she was just running towards me with this big grin on her face and her arms out, just over there.
Oh, that's lovely. Was there any reason why she was running towards you?
She was pleased to see
you?
me. Yeah.
You've lived an entire long relationship with somebody, and clearly there's been moments where it's been really complicated. And it sounds like you've clashed heads at various points. Imagine someone's listening to this and they're a few years into something and a few doubts here and there. Now you've seen all the way through the other side. What would you say to that person about how I might proceed or not?
Go see a therapist.
You call you up. Are you trying to get back in the game?
No way. That's another life. It's gone.
Are you saying there, first try and fix your own problems, and then it's easy to kind of...
It's easy to project onto other people rather than look at what's going on for you.
Yeah.
And sometimes the dynamics that get set up in couples, it is really helpful to have an outsider be able to observe and see what's going on and help unravel them.
Did you do that in your practice? So you
yeah.
had couples? So you had a couples therapist?
We did
Got it.
various times go and see a couple
Got it.
therapist. Yeah.
You weren't...
I didn't work with
therapist for a
couples.
couple?
No.
So you were a therapist for how long?
30 odd years.
What kind of therapist were you?
Eclectic. I never really trained properly in any one discipline, so Gestalt, psychosynthesis, psychoanalytic thinking and theory, body psychotherapy, trauma therapy, EMDR, EFT.
Seen it all.
Yeah. I think I used to say on my bio that I tailored the therapy to the person who came.
It's a great service to be able to provide.
Thank you.
Yeah. I mean, you must have seen so many people and tried to help so many people. And You stopped doing it at some point.
I don't think I tried to help. I think I tried to provide an environment where they could help themselves.
Sure, yeah. Was that your style? Was that your just general overriding thing?
This isn't my original saying, but if you let someone talk long enough, they'll find the answer for themselves.
Yeah. Yeah. I can totally see it. Oh, he's back. He does look very happy. Did look really happy.
I bet it feels great.
Yeah. Maybe we should both do it. This is the takeaway from our conversation. What were the last sessions like? When you retired, I mean, what kind of atmosphere did they hold?
Well, I think we did a lot of reviewing the work and what had changed and what hadn't, and what it might be like living without me. And
how you'll cope without me. Top tips for coping
referrals.
Without me. Yeah, good. Did you get emotional during any of these moments?
Yeah.
Is it a funny thought you wouldn't? I'm guessing you're emotional because you're not going to see. You can't really see the people
right.
again.
The thing about being a therapist is you never know the end of the story. You never know. Well, actually, with Google these days, you can with some people.
Do you? Little twinkle on the keys.
Only. Oh, this sounds like I'm being ever so ethical. There are some people who are actually in the public domain, so I might with them.
Yeah.
Just to see what they're up to.
Celebrities?
No. Artists and makers and writers.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got one in our street. We've got a celeb in our street.
Oh, that's exciting. How did you welcome the celeb in?
Low key.
Low key. Have you said hello to the celeb?
Yeah.
Oh, you have?
He says hello to me.
Oh, fantastic. As he should.
Yes.
Do you ever think, this isn't me being, at least I don't mean it as like an ageist thing, but if I were your age, grand old age of 76, yes, I've got your date of birth here. What were the 50s like, by the way, for you?
My 50s.
No, the 50s.
The 50s. Quiet, I guess, compared to life now. I went to a Catholic primary school, even though my family wasn't Catholic. It was the best primary school in the area.
Did you have to pretend to do anything particular?
For me, at that age, it wasn't pretending, like saying the prayers to the statues in the corner of the room. It was real. It was for real.
Of course.
I left room for my guardian angel when I had my dinner.
Oh, how you mean with a chair? You mean?
Yeah.
On your
I'd move up and leave
on your
room for
own
my-
chair.
Yes.
Oh, sorry. For a minute, I thought you were never sitting next to anybody.
I collected the holy cards.
What is a holy card? Should I know that?
Little cards, like Pokemon cards.
Yeah.
But with
With-
pictures of the saints on.
Oh, okay. That's where it all comes from. How many saints are there?
Oh, hundreds.
Yeah, so there's loads.
Hundreds and hundreds.
Did you have a favourite?
No, but I like Mary Magdalene now.
Okay.
I'm sure we've been talking for more than 15 minutes,
No, we
haven't
haven't. It's been 16. No, it's been more than 15. You're right.
So, this is the thing about psychotherapists, they always have a sense of an
Time.
hour going by,
Yeah.
even though where there's no clock looked at. You know, you should think about training as a therapist. You get people to talk to you, you're a good listener.
That's very sweet of you to say that.
I'm sure I'm not the only person.
You're not. No, I'm not sure I would do it. I'm not sure I could do it in a professional sense. Anything, I mean, as a therapist, anything you would tell me to do differently in terms of talking to people? That's the first time I've asked that question on the bench.
Okay, one thing I'm sure you pick up when somebody has like a non-verbal response to a question before they answer it.
Yeah.
And sometimes it might be helpful to comment on that. You know, like, oh, look, like that question made you look a bit uncomfortable. Or you don't have to answer that if you don't want to. Like,
Yeah, that's interesting. I probably get a sense, you know, you feel these things so instinctively. I mean, that's the first thing you kind of see anyway, I
are you
guess.
telling me you don't?
No, I would say I probably do. I'm saying I don't necessarily ask questions about non-verbal responses.
You don't have to ask a question. It could be more like a neutral comment.
Yeah,
Like you, that
you've
you
responded
noticed
like
it.
this. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you think some people feel a bit sensitive about their non-verbal responses because it's like kind of more truthful responses, you know, or you're kind of pointing at something more direct?
I think most people like to be seen.
This is true, even if it's a bit painful. That's a good thought. Yeah, no, I'll take that with me. I'll ask you a few more questions and I'll leave you alone. You're
I've
right.
got a pack.
It has been more than. Oh, you're going to Brooklyn.
Yeah,
Did you say family?
my sister.
You get on well?
Yeah,
That's nice. Younger?
marginally.
Oh, what?
18 months.
Okay, sorry. I mean, I think it could be twins or something marginal. Have you found any kind of odd coping mechanisms in your grief?
None that have really surprised me. I mean, the usual coping mechanisms, like the importance of routine. I've read so much detective fiction because it's easy.
Perfect. You could be a detective.
Oh, thanks. I don't want to be anything.
I'm desperately trying to make you be something. I don't want to do anything. Just want to have a quiet time. But you're going to New York tomorrow,
am.
so that's not very.
I'm going to
that's
have a
not very
really nice time.
quite
We're
doing to
going
me.
to spend a day on the Hudson River. We're going to stay overnight in an inn. We're going to an opera at the Met.
Right.
We're going to some jazz in Trinity Church on Wall Street. Going to have lunch with
There's
an
a plan.
old friend. Yeah, we make plans in our family.
I mean, I don't know why I'm so impressed
We know
by these
how to
plans,
enjoy
but
ourselves.
I mean, I am.
When I was there last time, it's a bit like where she lives, it's a bit like here.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of really interesting patisseries and bakeries. So we went to about half a dozen of them and bought one croissant from each one. We also went in the local supermarket and bought a pack of theirs. And there were two of her kids there. Right, we put them all out anonymously and we had a contest. Which one rates on appearance? Which one rates on the
On the snap.
snap? Yeah, on the smell, on the taste.
Oh, fantastic.
The poor supermarket one was this sort of pale, flaccid.
That didn't win.
No.
And then the next 10 years, just pure peace.
Oh, I'm waiting to find out.
If it's going to be pure peace or not.
No, what it's going to be like. I doubt it'll be pure peace. There's no such thing.
Yeah, you're right. I was doing some magical thinking there. I was just hoping. I've got a feeling. I'm just going to say annoying things now because why not? But I've got a feeling something will emerge.
It will. It will.
And then,
it always
and then
has.
it will be
All my
surprising.
life,
And then it will be
something has
surprising.
emerged.
Yeah.
Something has emerged.
Yeah.
It's just come towards me and I've gone, oh yeah, all right.
I've spoken to so many different people, but you can see people who are half your age who don't have certain energy or, you know, don't have certain, not
Life
quite as
force.
present. Yeah, life force. Yeah. And I think when people have life force, it finds its home, doesn't it?
Mm.
Obviously skateboarding. As you said, like therapy, you don't find out what happens next.
No, that's right. And I don't find out what happens to you in your podcast.
Well, you might do. very useful for you actually. I walked past you, when I first walked past you, you had your eyes closed. And I got a really good feeling about you. And I was like, oh, it's annoying that she's got her eyes closed. I feel like I can't.
Were you walking up and down then?
Yeah.
Waiting for me to open my eyes?
Yeah, basically. And I thought maybe she's just someone who's just not going to open her eyes. That's just her thing. I mean, I've got used to really interrupting people, but interrupting someone who's got their eyes closed is just a step too far for me. But it gave me a chance to really look at you, to check that I was in the right place. And I don't need too long, I think. You know, you just get a real sense.
So what was it about me that you thought, aha, she's a good one?
You're very, very still. So like eyes closed, yeah. For me, that was saying you're thinking about something, obviously deeply. And then just the general aura, which is really just wordless. It's just what someone gives off. And then you hope that person says yes to you then. It's a whole...
I'm very glad you asked. This bench, by the way, is very used to having people interact, because I will come up here, if there are people sitting here, I say, I'm really sorry, would you mind? This is my wife, she died last year, I've just come to talk to her. And most people go, oh, yes.
Oh, wow, that's amazing. So you shoo people off?
I do.
Good on you. Have conversations started as a result?
Well, there was one guy who obviously didn't get the hint. And he just stayed. He just said, oh yes, I know, I'll go and talk to my mum, and then kept talking about himself.
Yeah, I think it's funny for most people, because when you see bench dedications, typically they're all dead, whereas you're a rare one to have a living one.
Yeah.
So maybe people don't get it.
I hope it says something about our relationship, you know.
Of course it does.
My nephew has instructions that when I go, he has to change that and put my death date on as well.
No, that's a good one. No, yeah, no, it's a beautiful one. Last question for you.
Okay.
Actually, well, we kind of know what you're going to do, but I'll ask this question anyway. I always ask people what they're going to do next.
On the way home, I need to buy some bread for the person who's house sitting for me, and then I'm going to pack.
Can they not buy their own bread? It's a nice thing.
It's a courtesy.
It's a courtesy. What bread do you get for someone who...
For this person, a decent solid wholemeal.
Nice. Anything else?
I've got a fridge full of food.
Oh, right. What a good gig. And he's just got to look after the cats.
Yeah. What am I going to do next in life?
Yeah.
I'm going to America.
Yeah. You are going.
I'm going to have fun with my sister.
With all your plans.
Yeah. And when I come back, I shall take stock, see where I am then. I shall probably do some taking stock while I'm away. It's good, you know, when you get a space from the life that you're embedded in, see things a bit differently. It's the end of the first year. Second year, some people say it's just as hard in a different way. Wait and see.
Don't forget the skateboarding though.
I won't forget the skateboarding. I won't forget the skateboarding.
It's crucial.
What does a scooter do?
Yeah, there's always not an electric one.
Yeah, okay. It feels a bit safer. It's something to put my hands on.
It does feel a bit safer, doesn't it?
Yeah.
You could say it's a gateway. Maybe you could start with a scooter and go on to the skateboard if you're really enjoying it. Well, thank you for talking to me.
Thank you for stopping and talking to me.
It's been a beautiful time to talk to someone on their bench. What an honour. And it's been great, thank you.
You're welcome.
Magical thinking, you do it too. Careful with words in case they come true. There's a mad lady sat in the park, talking to someone who's back with you. She's closing her eyes, taking her time. She's listening out for the answers. I hope that I'm like her when you were gone. I hope that we'll never stop talking. She says, Gina, heard it on the radio and it was her time to go. That's how love is, a dream you hear before you see her up there leaning. Go to the parties, have a good time. Go to New York, keep feeling alive. That's what I'd want if I went first. That's what I'd say from the other side. You carry it round like a heavy balloon until it bursts, until the love floods you. You be the my lady, sat in the bar, closing your eyes, and we'll never stop talking. We'll never stop talking. We'll never stop talking. We'll never stop talking. We'll